Hello everyone and welcome to our Game Week 9 sort of mini preview show. I'm Chris, Kieran's here too. How are you today, Kieran?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. How are you?
Good, yeah, I'm alright. I'm looking, international break, I'm actually looking forward to watching the England games this weekend and, taking a break from FPL, just an extra week to assess things. I'm looking forward to it. It's good. Let's jump in. So obviously we've got a week and a half until the next game week deadline, but we thought we'd just recap our thoughts from last game week and look ahead to some of the key fixtures that's going to be happening in a week and a half's time, just to keep a little bit engaged in all things FPL. So let's bring up our team, shall we, first, and have a chit chat about how we got on, because you played your wild card. 65 points, I think it was.
Yeah, 65 points. Started Turner, or kept Turner instead of going for someone else for the wild card. And I was looking at Raya and stuff like that. But yeah, went for Turner, started him, 6 points, nice.
Good,
yeah, Udogie I kept just because of budget reasons. I couldn't get up to Porro and had value in him with the 6 points. Cash and Burn, disappointing, no returns, but Madison with the 6, and obviously the Watkins return. And then, the big swing was captaining Salah for the 30 points compared to Son and Haaland blanking. So, overall, I think it was 1.2-ish million up to about 360k. So, that's sort of hopefully started the season well off, I guess, and in a okay position now, as long as I don't go backwards and I keep moving forwards.
No, it was nice. It came in that Salah captaincy. I benefited from that as well. Obviously, I got 61 points. What did I made 2 transfers this week. So Bruno out for Son, which was obviously a bit of a fail, and a bit like you, like, I didn't fancy captaining Son in that early fix, just because I thought Luton would be difficult to break down at home, and obviously with that man sent off as well, it made it even more difficult for Spurs. So lucky to keep the clean sheet. Udogie came in for me. I got Anderson for... Who did I get Anderson for? It was Stupinan, because I had most of my defenders injured, and I was deliberating for ages whether to just get an Arsenal defender in ahead of their good run, and I just kind of fancied, I thought Anderson would definitely get a clean sheet, maybe some bonus against Forest, and no Arsenal player would, and typically, like, both of the Arsenal centre-backs kept that clean sheet and got that bonus, which is a bit irritating, but I couldn't have predicted, I don't think, City blanking, because it's rare for them to not score. So it was all right, really. All right, let's move on and chit chat about some of the upcoming fixtures in a week and a half's time. Do you want to take it away and talk about Spurs Fulham first, because I think there's obviously the top of the table at the moment.
Just quickly, my non-wildcard team would have scored 31 points, so that was a win.
Wow.
So that was justified time to play the wildcard.
Yeah, that is good. Yeah, nice.
Spurs versus Fulham. Obviously, Spurs now top of the table after 8 weeks, which is, they probably haven't been in that spot for quite a while recently.
Yeah.
So maybe Kane was the problem after all. Like, imagine if Spurs end up winning the league.
Oh, I know. Can you imagine?
Happening, but that would be a kick in the balls for Kane.
I know. Maybe he'd come back in January if they're top at Christmas.
Yeah, right.
I'm unsettled in Germany.
Switch deal with Richarlison, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
they've made what's his name work for a while there, isn't he? The guy from Stoke, blanking on his name. You can remember his name, can't you?
Who are we talking about?
The guy that used to play for Stoke that's gone there.
Choupo-Moting.
Choupo-Moting, there you go. Yeah, they made him work for a while.
That's
so
true. They could do
it for Richarlison.
I like your thinking. Yeah, I'm sure Bayern would entertain that.
Yeah. Anyway, so 6 wins, 2 draws, 0 losses so far. And they've obviously had tough games in there of United, Arsenal, and Liverpool as well. So this Fulham game looks like an enticing fixture to me, obviously, and most of us out there. And a team that doesn't really park the bus, aren't really known for being good defensively. So I feel it could be a good time for Son captaincy, or a differential shout at least. Obviously, Mo Salah's got a good fixture. Haaland's got a good fixture as well. But if you want to risk it there again with someone different in Son, then he could be one to go for as well. So team stats wise for Spurs, their XG is 14.93 as a team, which is 8th, which isn't anything amazing, I suppose. And then the expected goals conceded of 10.8, which is 8th, 8 conceded, and which is 7th best. So they're overperforming on both sort of sides of the ball. manageable, I guess.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can keep it up. I guess we'll see. I mean, they have the fixtures currently to do that. Obviously with Fulham next, and then Palace away, Chelsea at home. Probably not a bad fixture for attacking
okay.
point of view. And then Wolves away, Aston Villa at home should be pretty open. After that, they got Man City, they got West Ham. So that's where it starts to get a little bit more foggy. We'll probably start to look at getting rid of a few of their players around then. So yeah, but for the time being, looks good. And this one looks like one to target for sure.
How long do you think you'll plan keeping Son for? I feel like since I know it's easy to think about getting rid of him already because he's just blanked. But I look at him in my team and feel like I don't know. It's just such an imbalance in my team now that I've got Son, Saka, Salah and Haaland, and I kind of think, and also Maddison as well. It's almost like too much Spurs, and his price compared to Saka, and who offers similar. I don't know. He just seems quite expensive, and I'm already thinking that perhaps after the Fulham game, he is someone I'd sacrifice because he's hauled twice this season. I'd say with that 20 and 14, but otherwise he's been like we said before, feast or famine. And
yes,
I don't know. Maybe someone. I'm really looking at Bowen recently, and I mean their fixture run is good after Aston Villa away, and I kind of think maybe for 2 odd million less, he's gonna be providing a sort of similar, maybe not quite as good, but a similar sort of output for quite a bit less.
Yeah, I have him penciled in as someone who could go around game week 10 or 12 for Saka. Back for Arsenal's sort of fixtures. Bowen obviously looks like a good option too. But seeing as most wildcarders, me included, wouldn't have any Arsenal on their team, I think that he is going to be the cash cow that gets to an Odegaard or a Saka or even a Martinelli at 7.7, who's obviously came on scored, is obviously back now. He looks like he could be a nice differential. I think he's only like 4% owned or something like that now. So
he's dropped.
Yeah, he probably will start to like pick up in price and ownership pretty soon. But yeah, Son, I think obviously keep him for this week, and then after that you probably could look at taking him out. But again, the fixtures, he's done all right in the sort of ones where teams have sort of come against him, and he's hauled in ones. Yeah, he hauled in that Arsenal game as well, and then that Burnley one who are pretty open as well.
True.
So yeah, possibly the Chelsea at home one could be good for him, but I feel like Chelsea are more defensive.
And then Palace, I think, is difficult after that as well.
Yeah, so he could even go in 10 then, maybe to Saka, assuming he's fit. Aston Villa at home in 13 seems like quite a good one.
Yeah,
though.
That will be good.
Both teams will attack. So, he's not a reason, definitely someone you have to get rid of or anything. But for the time being, I think he's fine. So his numbers, he's averaging 6.75 per game points, which is 6th in the game behind Saka, Salah, Watkins, and Haaland. So that's obviously decent, but that's come with those 2 hauls. Game weeks 3 to 8 stats. He's had 20 shots, which is second overall for forwards, mids. Big chances of 6, which is joint second. An XG of 2.95, which is 4th. Key passes 3, big chances created of 3 there, which is joint 4th, which with quite a lot of players in midfield. And then an XA of 1.39. So his numbers look fine, and not someone too bad or too much to worry about, but as we said, he could go eventually.
Yeah, he's like I say, he's definitely someone. I think because of how much, and he's risen in price again, even after the back of blanking. Yeah, so maybe he'll get another one after the Fulham game, hopefully for returns. But yeah, it's one of those players. I kind of felt like I wanted to cover this Luton and Fulham game because they look like, if they got a goal early against Luton, they probably could have scored quite a few, but the game didn't really go that way. But same with, I don't think Fulham are going to be pushovers at home either. I think it's one of those where the fixture looks good on paper, but they were decent away against Arsenal, and did they? I suppose they got opened up a bit against City, but on their day they can be tough. So it will be. Yeah,
it's strange. Fulham have kind of one of the worst XGCs in the Premier League, which is like 17th. They're not dead last, but which they were. But like, they've still got 3 clean sheets in that time, which is more than many teams at the moment. So that they're a bit of an enigma in that sort of defensive thing. You can't really tell what's going to happen. Maybe if it's like a goal scored early, then the floodgates are open. So that could happen.
Yeah. No, interesting. Is there any players from Fulham that you're interested in at all? I feel like I haven't really considered any of their players so far this season, which is a bit of a shame because they've had decent fixtures for a bit.
Yeah, I've got Andreas down here. He's on 27 points. He's slowly sort of ticking away. Obviously, he was a darling budget pick last year. Obviously, at 5.5 million this year, he's been pretty much a non-pick, only 1.2% owned. But yeah, he's had 3 returns so far. Stats not great. Maybe will become an option around game week 22 when they have a decent run, but that's obviously quite a while away. And then obviously Jimenez, big downgrade from Mitrovic, isn't he? 5.4 million, 0.8%, and 0 returns from 509 minutes, which is 720 is the max minutes. So he has missed a little bit of time, but he's done nothing. He's had 11 shots, 0 big chances, an XG of 0.7, XG of 0.3. So yeah, he's doing basically nothing. The washed Raul, unfortunately, is not a good replacement. They should probably just play what's his name, Vinicius instead of Jimenez each week, because he seems to be able to at least come up with some goals. So I reckon prediction wise, I would say probably like a 2-1 or a 3-1 to Spurs, and you're hoping that someone like Maddison and Son will definitely be involved. I don't know if I definitely see a clean sheet, but it certainly could be, that's for sure. I think Willian was quite good last game for Fulham, so they're sort of getting their sort of main players back with Willian back in and Andreas fit and everything. So yeah, should be an interesting game.
Any chance you captain Son or Maddison this game week? I've been toying with the idea of maybe, because it's a Monday night game, quite like the idea of leaving it all weekend. But Haaland v Brighton almost looks just like it's too difficult to back against, given how Brighton are defending and what City are like at home. Yeah,
I mean, like I said, Son could be that differential option this week. I sort of back him to do quite well in this one. So, certainly tempted. Captaincy is at the moment on Haaland and vice on Salah, but the captaincy helped us out going different from Haaland last week. Definitely. So maybe it could be the same thing again this week. But obviously he's going to be closer to the 200% EO this week.
Oh, I know.
Haaland.
And it's going to be we'll jump on to talking about that one now, but the fact that, City and Brighton is the first game when Rodri's back after his 3-game ban, which they lost all 3. You kind of think there's going to be a reaction to that. So I think Brighton arrive at, I think it's the 3 p.m. one of the 3 p.m. Saturday games, and I had
at home.
And I had a quick look just to see how Haaland and Alvarez have been doing in their respective home games. So Haaland's got 2, a 20, and a 6. Alvarez in sort of the same order, a 7, a 14, and 1. So I'd say that they're both quite, fairly evenly matched in home games. 1 blank each. I think Haaland blanked in I think they both blanked in that Forest game. I think from memory that was one that Alvarez was subbed in. So it's they're good numbers for captaincy when either of them could explode in any given game. But I think Haaland's interesting because I don't know that you'd expect from especially last season, a bit more of and I suppose it's a small sample size with only 3 games, but you'd be looking for numbers which are sort of 9 to, let's say, 14 consistently for a captaincy shout. And the fact that he's had 1 big blowout game, we know we can return hat-tricks, but it will be interesting to see what he does against Brighton next weekend, I should say. So they conceded, Brighton have conceded 2 sort of 1 goals and a 6 on the road this season. Despite that 6-1 loss, the last away game against Villa, they actually have a pretty good expected goals conceded in away games this season, and 4.6. That's the 4th best overall. So, the fact that the XGC in that Villa game was something like 1.1, that sort of aligns with the fact they've only conceded 1 goal in the other 2 away games. So, then the sort of the thinking is their defence isn't that good, and they were pretty poor in the most recent Europa League game at the back as well. But in the league, they've actually been okay on the road defensively, so they haven't really the numbers look better than perhaps the goals conceded column, let's say. So
I think it's probably going to be like that Liverpool game a little bit, where it's just it's kind of open, and their defense is just not quite good enough to keep like a good team out for the whole game, kind of thing. So it's probably going to be a 2 goals at least, possibly 2 goals for Brighton too. Maybe it's just going to be like probably high scoring game, and just it's going to be open and ready for hauls for either team, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it should be a really fascinating game. And, you know, Brighton, City have got 2 clean sheets out of 3 at home this season. So that's where they're keeping, obviously, the majority of their clean sheets. And it's a small sample size. They have been stronger there. And I think the fact that Rodri is back is going to make a big difference. So in the last 2 games that Rodri was out, City only got a 1 point. I mean, you wouldn't think he affects them in this game, but the 1.4 XG in the last 2 games, that's total. And only scored 1 goal. And you can consider one of those games was away against Wolves. The other one was away against, I appreciate it was away against Arsenal, but, you know, a team who they're potentially challenging for the league, you'd think they'd put more impetus on trying to get a result in that game. So to record such a low sort of total XG across those 2 games is quite shocking, really, but I kind of think that's going to jump right back up against Brighton.
Yeah, I think Haaland had a combined total of 0.01 XG in the last 2 games, so... but like his stats are still amazing. Yeah. Like across the whole season, he's had 15 big chances, and the nearest is 10, which is Isaac. So like for strikers, obviously, and that's just showing like he is getting those big chances, and he is going to start putting them away. Like he has been less clinical lately, obviously, but that's just we know he can turn that around, and he's capable of huge scores in basically any game. And this one looks like it's ready for it too. It's possibly even a triple captain shout. I mean, not that I'm going to do that, but it's a possibility. It seems like the sort of game that is going to be open enough for a shout chances in a single game week. Anyway,
yeah. A bit later, when I was looking at Salah, and I'll get onto that later. I was looking at sort of the average number of shots he's taken in the box so far this season, and Salah's like way down. He's like 2.5 shots on average per 90. Haaland's 4. So I mean, he's having just on average so many more chances than Salah, and he's behind him on points total so far this season. So yeah, as soon as he starts converting the chances, he could produce these big hauls, which I think, like we keep talking about, like backing against him is going to be the big thing to having huge jumps and picking those right games. Like we knew this Arsenal away game was going to be difficult, and I think the fact that he blanked in itself is rare. But you know, they were bad on the road away against Wolves. It might be that if they're playing away from home this season, perhaps, depending on what the situation, they've lost. We talked about lost key players, but Alvarez isn't going to be like as good as Kevin De Bruyne was, or as good as Gundo was every single game. So maybe it's some games on the road where they're just not going to create, or he's not going to convert, and those are the games you've got to back against him. But yeah, maybe it's a stretch too far to go against him against Brighton.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Yeah.
So on the Brighton front, this is actually their sort of, I'd say, their last of their tricky games before their really juicy run. So after City, they've got Fulham at home, Everton away, Sheffield United at home, Forest and Chelsea back-to-back away, Brentford, Burnley back-to-back at home, and then Arsenal, Crystal Palace. So I think between game week 10 and Christmas, which is game week 18, they only play 1 team inside the current top half of the table. So you would expect there to be some big returns there. Now Stupien is out, and he's going to sort of maybe come back around game week 11 or 12 if that's like the month out is to be believed. But I think it's just, who do we invest in attack again? So they've scored in every game this season, 8 goals in 3 games on the road from an XG of 5.5. So, you know, they've overperformed there, but we know they are good for that because they put most of their efforts into attacking. So I had a look at who their best performers were. So Matoma leads the way for expected points and overall points so far, which, you know, that's fair enough because he's played pretty much the most minutes of any of their attackers. But interestingly, though, if you have a look at like points per 90 minutes, Ferguson comes out on top at 6.5. Pedro is in at second at 6.1, which surprised me. March 5.4, Matoma down on 4.2. So Pedro averages also the most shots in the box when like looking at their players per 90 minutes, and he's only 5.3 million now. What's interesting, he's only started 3 of those 8 games, but he's come on in all the others, and in 2 of the other games he's come on in, he has returned. I think against United he came on, scored, and got bonus. So yeah, 5.3 million, he's not much of an investment for a decent run where you would expect him to potentially play some, well, I guess a similar level of minutes to what he's playing now. Like, you would expect rotation, but he's good. If you want someone nailed on, it's surely got to be Matoma. So he's started 7 of the 8 games, and the one he didn't start was the home game against Bournemouth, where he came on at half-time with 2 goals. So he's a safe pick. Pedro probably and Ferguson joint for not so safe but sexy picks.
Well, it probably does show that Matoma's like not immune to benching every so often.
Yeah, I agree.
And like he's pulled out of the international break.
Because he's
Japan,
ill.
is that
I
where he's
think
from?
he is.
Japan.
Yeah.
Well, I think it says on thingy it says fatigue, but maybe he's just ill then. And I think De Zerbi has mentioned about fatigue before with him that he does get tired. So yeah, I think he will obviously be the pick, but he's just not. You need to have that sort of first bench ready if he's not going to come on in a game. But it looks like he probably will anyway. And he obviously has that possibility of going against tired legs and getting those 2 goals against Bournemouth, like you said. So, yeah, he's probably just to stick in and forget from. When do you say their fixtures go good? Yeah, game week 10.
Which is when I so he is like prime target. Well, I've got Mwembo as well, who I'm going to give him 1 more week against Forest away, but looking at potentially Son to Matoma and Morris to Watkins for game week 10 onwards just seems like a good move. Both have got good long-term fixtures, and I like Brighton's attack, and Matoma, based on the minutes so far, seems like De Zerbi likes him. I thought he'd be rotated more with Fati from who came across from Barcelona, but it's not happening. It's not happening. So yeah, no, I like him.
I think he's close to a drop over the break as well because of the yellow flag. So hopefully he does, because I've got Diaby in that spot who could easily move to him as well.
Yeah, no, I think he's good price, and I think a lot of the only thing which is a bit irritating about him, which is part of the reason why I think it's important to jump on him, is because he's so like auto picked. His ownership is still 40%, which is crazy, really, for for this stage of the season and the run they've had. So I'm guessing he featured a lot at the start of the season just because he was high from the previous season and he was cheap. But I think he's the second highest owned midfielder in the game, which is a bit like, but I think
he's possibly a big reason why like our ranks have not been particularly good, because you obviously owned him for a bit, but then most sort of engaged players kind of didn't, and he's been returning most weeks, hasn't he? He's up there in midfielders overall points as well, so he's like probably like 8th or 10th or something like that. So
he's ridiculous.
He does hurt the rank when you don't own him, that's for sure.
I know. Well, I thought I was being like smart play when I played the wildcard. I was like, right, Mwembo's got like decent fixtures. Matoma's got bad ones, and then the next few, and Matoma's got like 20 points in that time, and Mwembo's got about 8. So I just feel like pick the player for the player in sort of Matoma's sense, and maybe he needs to come back in. It'd be good if he dropped in price. He's 6.6 at the minute.
6.5 would be nice.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about Villa and West Ham, 2 teams that, like we've just mentioned, have got great fixture runs starting from basically game week 10?
Yeah, so obviously 2 darling teams of wildcarders, and obviously upcoming wildcarders, especially this week for West Ham, and obviously the week after for West Ham. Well, I think if you're wildcarding this week, you probably still have to get them in. But anyway, Watkins 8.1 million now, 30% owned. That's probably gone up since 30.2%. But returned in every match bar 1. Consistent performer with obviously a really good run coming up still. Like their fixtures are insane after West Ham: Luton at home, Forest away, Fulham at home, and then so that chunk of 3 is really good. Obviously the home games, Spurs away after that, but then Bournemouth away after that too. So really good. The block after that of Man City and Arsenal at home, both you could probably look to sell a Diaby and possibly a Watkins as well. But Watkins, as I've said before, is basically the only striker in the Premier League who's consistent other than Haaland, and obviously Haaland has not been that great recently. So he seems like a solid sort of possible set and forget for most of the season. And he often sort of goes on a run of just returning. He didn't get his goal last week. Who did they even play? I'm forgetting that now.
Wolves.
Wolves, yeah. So we obviously thought he would probably continue to score, but he obviously didn't get that. But he did get his return. Hit the post and like the final kick as well. So unlucky to not get more, obviously. Yeah, so 11 returns so far, an average of 7.3 points per game, which is first. 59 points, which is first in the game, which is joint with Salah. Ahead of Haaland for points and returns. He's got 11 and Haaland's got 9. So, yeah, he's possibly ahead of Haaland in terms of consistency. Shots of 25, which is second overall. Big chances of 8, which is joint fourth. An XG of 3.29, which is sixth. Key passes of 16, which is second. Big chances created of 3, which is first, and an exit of 0.75. So, yeah, really, those stats are really good. There isn't much not to like about him, really. Obviously, his price is quite a lot. It does sort of hurt people's sort of balance sometimes. But if you're looking to wildcard, obviously, then I would still sort of bring him in, especially on from game week 10. If you're a game week 10 wildcarder, then Luton, Forest, and Fulham for that 3 seems like a juicy to pick up. So, I'm happy to have owned him from last week. Got the 5 points. Obviously missed that 23-point haul, but I'm obviously hopeful for the next ones.
No, I think it'll be this time is a good time to own him. And to be honest, if Son wasn't playing full, I feel like you can probably tell I can feel a bit of regret of picking Son, because I think he's lopsided my team, and maybe Salah will be won't make it back in time, and that'll make things a bit different. But yeah, I think looking at Watkins's his fixture run and his price, I think just offers, like we said at the start of the season, he is consistent and he's not out of this world expensive, and I kind of feel like he and a mid-price player like a Bowen or a Matoma is probably better, especially for my team, than a Morris and a Son. So I think he's definitely someone I've got my eye on. And to be honest, his price is shooting up. It looks like he's even close to another price rise over the international break. He looks like he's verging on 8.2, which, considering he was 7.9 some weeks ago, that big 23-point haul's made a difference.
Yeah, kind of what I needed for my team, especially on wildcard. I struggle with the team value for the wildcard. Hopefully that keeps going upwards from now on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Pau Torres, I want to mention at 4.5 million, 2.3% owned, absolutely nailed on. But his returns have been 0, 6, 2, 1, 2, 8, 2, and 10. So he's good on bonus in low scoring clean sheet matches. Only actually 5 points behind Cash, which is kind of amazing. While the team selected by is 2% versus 30%. So yeah, big difference there. Obviously, the centre backs that like to tick along, and the Gabriels and the Andersons, they do prove to be quite good assets. When we're obviously always chasing the fullbacks and the attacking potential, but the centre backs across the season do seem to be sort of up there for points. Slight concern. I think he is nailed on. Well, at least he should be, because there's no Mings and stuff like that. And then just to mention as well on Aston Villa, there's a slight concern obviously on Diaby's fitness. I think he's not playing in the international break as well. So hopefully he can get right over the next 2 weeks and be fine. I don't think he's not yellow flagged anymore. So that's obviously a good thing. So should be dropping in price at all. But hopefully he can stop the 60 odd minute sort of going off, and he can play a 90 and be in the points just with Watkins. There's someone else to consider there about Torres. Obviously Moreno, I think, has had a setback as well. So Dina is not even a bad option either. If you want to go for someone else who's obviously putting in a ton of crosses and gets the other assists and had a good start to the season as well. So there's definitely options in this Villa squad. Even Douglas Luiz, if you want to go cheap in defence. I assume is probably taking penalties, it seems like. So yeah, decent options.
Have you ever used that the FPL review website? Maybe some of the people watching might have done it.
I think I have a couple of times, but yeah,
it basically just looks at player predictions and points. And I checked it this weekend just ahead of transferring out Estupiñán to see who might be the best pick, and the top rated player for the models showed that Pau Torres was going to be the first rated pick as a replacement based on the fixtures. And to be honest, I didn't do it because I'm just super against double ups in defence, and even players teams like Newcastle, I just don't like it. But it came in and it proved that was right. And maybe he didn't keep a clean sheet this week, and it's rare that he's picked up a goal. But yeah, he's delivered, and I like him, and I like Diaby too. I'd probably quite happily have triple Villa for this run. It's just you're right about Diaby's fitness, and I think because Watkins has like shown over the last 2 weeks, got like short-termism with him that he is like the main man. But really, before those 2 games, Diaby was on a par with him for points.
Yeah.
So it might have swing back round again in another 2 game weeks, and Diaby returns and Watkins has some quiet games. So I think they are, when they're both sort of playing where they have been, they're both really good options.
Yes, agree. And then obviously on the West Ham side, there's Bowen, who's obviously been
really good.
Been doing well this season. 7.3 million now, 18% owned. I'm sure that's only just going to keep going up. Blanked versus Newcastle, but I had the former fixtures. They were there for him, so unfortunate. 9-2, 12, 7-2, 7-9-2. So he's got plenty of returns there. Only got on 1 extra clean sheet point with once this year, with West Ham conceding 1 or more in every game bar 1. So he's not going to be getting that very often, it seems. But obviously the fixtures are so good after Villa. They're just insane, aren't they? They're like, what is it?
They were like good until like Christmas, which seems ages away from now. I think it's like game week 18.
Everton, Brentford, Forest, Burnley, Crystal Palace, Spurs, Fulham, Wolves. Then they got Man United and Arsenal, which is not great. But that's that Christmas run. So Villa, Everton, Brentford, Forest, Burnley, Palace, Spurs, Fulham, Wolves up until Christmas.
That's lovely.
Yeah, really nice.
If you'd asked me like 2 weeks ago, I would have been like I would have been said like, oh, Ward-Prowse can probably cover Bowen on that run, but just on the last 2 weeks alone, he seems to have dropped off a little bit, while Bowen still looks like he's retained a bit of form. So I've sort of gone off that idea. And when you look at like the overall points so far from midfielders, like it's no joke that Bowen's up there. Like, he has been consistent so far this season. He's only behind Saka, Son and Salah, but his ownership is way down. And he's gone back to the form of, maybe was it the season before last that he was just like really had a great season. I think it was 21-22. I'm just looking at it now. 12 goals, 17 assists. So he has the pedigree to have like a big season. So and he's showing it so far this season. At West Ham have got a good team. They've got a good fixture run. I kind of feel like he's a no-brainer pick, to be honest.
I probably would have got him over Diaby if the team value would have afforded it, basically. Like, I only went Diaby because I just couldn't afford Bowen. Many people on Wildcard did go for Bowen, and obviously they didn't work out this week, but they're looking good until Christmas, aren't they? So and obviously Moyes has mentioned like him playing as a central striker. He did start there when Antonio was a bit ill, I think it was, in the Europa League game. But he did revert back to his right wing role at the weekend. So I don't know, maybe that's something we start to see a bit more often in maybe the games when Antonio doesn't look right. And him through the middle could be a good thing. We've seen that's kind of with Rashford. He sort of was good for a while, but maybe it's not as good for FPL as for a winger going up front. I guess we'll wait and see. But 7 big chances, which is first of all mids, 23 shots, which is 5th, XG of 3.07, that's non-penalty XG as well, which is good, with 3rd. Key passes 2, which is really low. 1 big chance created is not very high, even an XA of 0.4. So his threat really is goal threat, and he's not really sort of creating that much. But I do believe he is still on corners, isn't he? So he does have that in him too. So obviously like him. Team-wise, game week 1-8, Villa XG of 15.7, which is 4th. West Ham United's XG of 12.71, which is 11th. And then the expected goals conceded is 12.7 for Villa and 16.5 for West Ham. So Villa seem to be better on the XG and the XGC. So for me in this game, I'd probably be backing the home team. Obviously, I do have the triple Villa, so I'm hoping there's no Bowen returns this week. And but prediction fair wise, I would say like 2-1 Villa, something like that.
I think seems fair. Low. I agree. I think it's going to be low scoring. I feel like West Ham's XG is probably, and XGC is probably like a bit skewed by the fact that they've played City, because City seem to like skew everyone's like numbers for that a little bit.
True.
I'm trying to think who else. Villa have played Liverpool away, but West Ham have also played Liverpool away, and West Ham have also played Chelsea at home. I don't think have Villa played any other top sides that you like think traditionally would have like a lot of the ball. Not off the top of my head, I can think they have.
Let me have a look.
So maybe
Brighton, obviously, Chelsea,
and they played Newcastle away.
Newcastle,
so okay. So maybe it's about similar. So, but no, I would agree anyway. Just on the eye test and on like the standings in the Premier League, Villa are a better team than West Ham, and I expect them to win as well.
Yeah, and obviously for wildcard, like Areola is a great pick. We mentioned the fixtures, just play him pretty much every week. Their XGC is probably going to get better with these good fixtures. Kufal, as people mentioned in the chat, is he's been really good as well. Annie obviously is a good
option,
but do you want to have double West Ham defense?
Not really.
Not really. No. It's obviously an option. Maybe you don't pick Areola in that case if you want to go Kufal, but probably a good bench option at least, Kufal as first bench. So even Emerson is a decent option. Paqueta I think is on pens, but seems to be not returning loads. I think it's probably Bowen, Areola, and Kufal is their option. Even Souček has looked good. He's been returning quite a lot recently, so he's back to his sort of year where he was almost essential for some when he was like 5 million, wasn't he? So and I obviously with Ward-Prowse, that's why Souček is coming into the conversation a little bit more.
Exactly. And Kufal's been a mini Trippier. I think it's 3 returns in a row at the moment for him. So, if he can keep that attacking threat up and add a couple of clean sheets, then, for someone who I would never have said at the start of the season looks like he's going to be an FPL pick, he's actually done pretty well on an attacking sense this season. So
I probably should have mentioned Ward-Prowse. He probably is a good option too to pick. There's the Zuma and Souček and the crossing prices and goals from set pieces is always high, and he's just making it better. So
I like it. I like all of West Ham. I like all of Villa, but you're right. They're wildcard darlings, and they've both got good runs at the same time. So let's go all in on them. All right. Probably the last game just to chat about is the Merseyside derby. It's so annoying. It's like a Saturday lunch. I just hate the Saturday lunchtime slot as like a kickoff. I just feel like it shouldn't open the weekend at like lunchtime. It just doesn't seem like a good time. But anyway, that's happening. And Liverpool have got good fixtures from now, which is why I had Salah already ahead of from this game week 8 run, and you've just got him, and they've got a good run now. They've got Everton and Forest back to back at home, Luton away, Brentford at home. They got City away, which they absolutely won't be scared of at the minute. Fulham at home, Sheffield United and Palace. So, juicy 3 of the next 4 at home. Liverpool obviously got a great record historically against Everton. They won 2-0 at Anfield last season. And I think if you haven't got Salah at the moment, you're probably worried. A highest scoring midfielder. I think we sat here and it was like game week 4 wildcard, and I was like, absolutely no problem in saying I bet Salah's got the most points by the time we get to game week 8. And I suppose, after game week 8. But he blitzed it with that, was it 15-point haul, obviously, with the 2 goals. And whilst he's not, like I said earlier, he's not having as many shots as as traditionally he would, or even some of the current strikers. He's still performing just from the fact that he's upped his XA. So looking at him at home so far this season, he hasn't blanked 5, 8 and 10. So unlike Haaland, he has not blanked at home this season, which is, quite an interesting prospect ahead of another captaincy decision. Joint highest scoring player this season. So like I said, he's not in the top 10 for shots in box per 90 this season. He's down in 14th behind Morris, my hero, which I absolutely loved finding out about. So he's averaging 2.5 shots per 90 this season. Morris 2.6. There's minimal difference, Kieran, in there for a quality player such as Morris. Watkins is 3.1 shots per 90. Haaland leads the way with 4. But where he has seen a big difference, like we've talked about, is he's 3rd for expected assists on average per 90 this season. So he's only behind Maddison and McNeil. So his roles change, but the points aren't really slowing.
McNeil?
Yeah, I know McNeil's top for expected assists per 90, which, I love that. Yeah. So, it's going to be a high scoring game between Liverpool and Everton.
Yeah.
So his role has changed a little bit, but points aren't really slowing, and he's on course for like another 280 point plus season. Just love Salah. You know that. I know that, and it's good things.
I obviously debated not having him. I sort of talked about all of his sort of stats last week of just being like,
you were unsure.
You don't have to pick him. He is not essential, and I did go for him in the end. Obviously, he has that captain option and a captain option going forward for the next 3 at least. So, obviously glad I did, because without him, I would have scored pretty poorly on the wild card. So, happy enough. Happy to own. Think he's probably just going to keep going from strength to strength. Well, at least I hope. This Everton game is usually fairly sort of like even, I guess. I think Everton have been quite good lately.
Yeah, they have.
So I think that this could be like a score draw, maybe, but I expect Liverpool to probably come out on top. But I think Everton will score, so I don't think there's a clean sheet coming.
No.
So, yeah.
Well, I actually looked at, because I was trying to see if there's any reason to invest in the Liverpool defence as part of like any change. I mean, first of all, they're all too expensive. Like knowing what we know now about the lack of clean sheets this season, none of their defenders have got like that high attacking output apart from Trent, and he's crazy money at the minute. For not having clean sheets. But they've only kept 1 clean sheet in 8 games. That was at home against Villa. So they've actually only got the 8th best defensive record. In terms of XGC. This season. And that's actually worse than both Everton and Forest, who they play back to back at home. So, none of their defenders really singing to me. And the fact that they're playing these two teams next who've got like a better defensive record, you're right. I think it's going to be, it's either going to be high. It's either going to be high scoring if the floodgates open, or it's just going to be really super boring. But I can't. I think the derby is always like a hard one to call from a captaincy point of view, because I don't know, that seems like more riding on it than other games, and I don't know.
True.
I like it as a fixture, but I don't like it as a derby, if that makes sense. Like based on the numbers. So yeah, I don't think, as much as I'd like to captain Salah this weekend, the fact that it's the first game and it's a derby just puts me off a little bit. Are you anywhere near, like, seriously, I know we talked about it a minute ago, or start of the stream. Are you anywhere near captaining anyone that isn't called Haaland this weekend? Or this next weekend?
I flirted with Son, flirted with Salah, but now I think it's just Haaland. Simple, really.
Keep it simple. All right.
Assuming no one gets injured on international break, which is obviously an issue, having already wildcarded, but...
That's true.
Yeah, we'll see.
That's true. All right. So Darwin, just on the worth mentioning him, just because the last 3 games he started, he's got 8, 6, and 5 points. The game against Brighton was actually the first time he's played 90 minutes this season. I suppose, he's good, and we spoke about him before, but he's a lot of money for a minute's rotation risk. And the issue with him and the other forwards at Liverpool is just that they aren't called Salah. You're not getting the guarantee of minutes, and I don't really think any of them can cover Salah at all. So he's done well, and he might be like a good short-term differential if you're looking for that before a wild card. But not.
Yeah, he was the one I really wanted to own on wildcard. I was tempted to go Diaz and him over Salah, and obviously I'm glad I didn't. But he did return, and I think he probably will keep returning while Gap goes out. But obviously there's the last time he was benched after an international break, he was benched. Diaz at the same time also was benched after an international break. So if you have either of them, be worried for a benching. I think Jota will be back from his suspension. So there's Diaz could be the one that gets benched, because obviously Gakpo won't be fit yet. So I think Darwin will have to play, whereas Diaz certainly could get benched. But Diaz has played and started every other game other than the ones from international breaks. So Diaz is definitely someone who could be a good option. Played most of the 90 last game as well. So I wanted to look at him as well. Like he was in there for a while, and I was doing my wild card, and I had to make the bench like super cheap to afford him, which obviously I didn't quite do in the end. But so there is options other than Salah.
Yeah,
but not for captaincy.
No, absolutely not. No, Manon in the chat says he's interested in Robertson. Looks like he's rejuvenated this season, attacking the back post. He was someone I looked at when I was just trying to forecast who might be good for Liverpool's like good run of fixtures coming up. But he's, like you say, in the highlights I've seen, he's looked like he's getting forward, but just the returns aren't there from a clean sheet and a attacking point of view. And I think the fact that he's maybe like 0.2 or 0.3 less expensive than Trippier, it just makes me think he's not really like a dead pick, but he just doesn't represent good value at the moment. Like 1 clean sheet in 8 and only 1 attacking return in 8 as well doesn't like fill me with confidence. And they've had some like pretty okay games up until now. So West Ham at home, Wolves away, Villa at home, Bournemouth at home. You'd expect like maybe 3 clean sheets really, or you'd want to have had at least 3 clean sheets. So not as sold on him, to be honest.
Yeah, I think they're just a bit too expensive when you're getting someone like a Burn and Anderson and stuff like that who are keeping decent or good chances for clean sheets most weeks when they have a good fixture.
Yeah, I mean, Manon's right. He's highlighted the fact that they are playing Everton, Forest, and Luton in the next three, and you'd hope that they could have a clean sheet potential. I think form is one of those things that they don't have at the moment, and it's maybe if you're a fixtures over form person, this is where you would take a risk on him. But I think he's a lot of money, and I mean, I was wrong, so don't listen to me because I didn't think Trippier or Newcastle looked like they had any form when I wildcarded in game week 4, and even though they had like good fixtures, Brentford at that point were playing really well, and Sheffield United were a promoted side, and then of course he's got like back-to-back returns, and he's been an absolute machine. So yeah, sometimes you can't predict form even if they have the
they're
fixtures.
by no means bad options for these three. Like, you can obviously bring them in. They probably will get a clean sheet and possibly some attacking returns, but it's just whether you can afford it with the rest of your team and wanting to get decent players in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. All right, should we just talk about our teams before we finish up? Is there anything else you want to touch on or discuss?
No, I think that's it for now.
All right,
obviously, actually, in the thumbnail there was Palmer. Who obviously is looking good. Possibly on penalties. I don't think anyone thought that was going to happen.
No, right.
I haven't got any stats on him yet because he's not really paid enough. But yeah, he could be a good option. Obviously, their fixtures are absolute trash for the next few, so he could be a good bench option at least, and play him in some of the more favourable ones. But I think if you're wildcarding, you definitely pick him up. Palmer looks good.
Yeah, he's 4.9, isn't he?
Yeah.
And Poch was like after the game said how impressed he'd been in training with him, and I think has he started the two as well. I'm pretty sure he started the last two.
Yeah, I think so.
So he's obviously trusted enough to start at the minute, and it's a funny thing to say, but like the more difficult games, perhaps the more focused Chelsea would be. Like they played well against Liverpool in game week 1 when they had a tough game, and maybe that'll continue. So I don't mind Palmer at all really if he can hold that spot down. It's a good shout. All right, I've got your team up on screen. Has there been any sort of, I don't even know if there is any considerations to make. I'm just having a look at your bench. Alisson, Gabriel and Taylor. There isn't really anyone you'd swap in, is there?
Yeah, Gabriel I could maybe play ahead of like maybe Cash, because I don't expect a clean sheet there, but Cash has obviously got that attacking upside. Played right wing last week again, so maybe I'll put Gabriel first bench. The possible clean sheet against Chelsea is probably unlikely, even though they did just clean sheet against City. So I think I'll just leave that as it is. I think Turner ahead of Areola makes sense again this week, assuming he keeps his plate. But maybe the international break is a time where they could bring in the new goalkeeper, which would sort of make sense. So I guess we'll see. If Areola comes in, hopefully a few saves at the least. So I'm happy with that squad. Obviously, it looks good this week, and nice to have no flags currently. Hopefully none over the international break, and it's looking good.
You absolutely love the double up on attack this season. Like you've had Arsenal, United, Spurs, Aston Villa, and City already.
It's not really been on purpose, but maybe it has, I suppose.
It's quite interesting. Yeah, no, I like it. I just think your team looks quite neat. It looks quite.
Yeah, I like to
like OCD layout. Yeah. Have you? Did you organise them like that as well?
Yeah, I always do that. 100%.
Okay. I was going to say, it looks quite neat.
If Salah was in the middle of Son and Maddison there, that would look terrible. Yeah, you can't be dealing with that.
Gross. Yeah, that's funny because I don't. I'd say I've got OCD, but I don't like two players. Like I think it's my thing about I don't like doubling up on teams. Like I don't like it because I've got Maddison and Son. I'll bring up my team now because I think it's all finished about yours. But I don't like having Maddison next to Son in midfield because it just looks like I've got too much of one team invested in it.
That's silly.
That is, I've got to move them about.
Look at yours now. That looks like absolute gobbledygook.
Oh, I know. It looks an absolute mess at the minute as well with the flags as well. Bloody hell. Yeah. So I think I just got so unlucky with injuries. Botman, Bell and Estupiñán being injured in the same week was a bit of a nightmare. So to be fair though, I think the team actually looks quite good this week, and I've got some like decent differentials. I think Turner is a play obviously rather than Areola because Villa are good at home. I think the word is that Botman's going to play.
Yeah, I had that too. Yeah.
So I'm happy to start him, and even Anderson off the first bench. I think just how Crystal Palace play, they would keep that score down anyway. So I'd expect a 1-pointer even if he came off the bench. Cash, Udogie pick themselves. We've got Son, Maddison, like I talked about. Salah's vice captain at the moment. Muembo, I kind of like that fixture, even though I don't like his performances at the moment. I think Burnley at home is a good game based on how they've been playing recently. They need the points. Brentford need the points, and yeah, I could see him finally returning in that game. Maddison speaks for itself. Saka, he's proved this season he's basically fixture proof when he's not injured, so that's fine. And I expect Arsenal to win that game as well, and him to return. And then obviously they're better.
Expect him to be fit, actually.
Yeah, well, I guess so. Do you? He got sent home from England.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I kind of think they've just given him effective 2.5 weeks off. It seems.
I think I read something that said they were sick of the the team leagues early, so they put Saka on the bus and to Bournemouth as a way to put people off.
Oh, that's interesting.
And he was never in contention to actually play the game, but he just turned up and went on the bus just to stop the leaks being so obvious.
That's really interesting.
So yeah, something to be aware of.
Oh well, yeah. So I'm happy to have Saka still, and like I've said with Morris, he was in for the double game week, and he's done well to get me 2 returns in the 4 weeks. But to be honest, I think it's probably time to move him on and upgrade. So
yeah, looks like your team is going to need a downgrade from Son to
absolutely.
Get a DRB / a Bowen and get Morris up to somewhere.
Yeah. Well, so I'm not planning to make any moves this week and leaving it as it is and hoping everyone's fine. And then for game week 10, I'm looking at Son, Morris and Wembo out for Bowen, Matoma and Watkins -4. So that's 3 teams.
You do that, wow.
Yeah, I've got 0.1, so hopefully Watkins doesn't go up twice. And if I could get a price rise out of Son and hopefully, the thing is as well, it's all relying on quite a few things. Mwembo might drop 0.1, and I don't really want to go on it too early if I can help it. But if I need to, I could. Anyway, I just think that's quite a nice set of moves for -4 for quite a long-term set of fixtures. And I would do it. I might even do it this week, but it'd be a -8. And I kind of think those 3 players have got good fixtures.
Yeah, you're probably wishing you went for Gahey, who got 9 points last week, and you would have had the extra 0.3 in the bank.
I know. It's so frustrating. And again, maybe I should have just gone for we talked about Gabriel as well, who's I've had a price rise off Anderson, but Gabriel's 0.2 cheaper, and again, it would have made the difference. But anyway, these things happen. I need to pay more attention to the price rises, but I just haven't really. It's why my team value's not so high.
Yeah, sometimes you just don't need it. Like my team obviously had a good wild card, and my team value is really poor. So hopefully, obviously, I hope it continues, and maybe the team value is not an issue. Yeah. So it's just even just I really wanted Anderson. I obviously went for Gabriel, but Gahey was cheaper and still got 3 more points than Anderson. So there is those picks that are cheaper that can still do well.
Did you get Gahey?
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Right.
He was an option, but I went for Gabriel on the bench instead of having to make that transfer 2 weeks down the line.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll just see. But no, I'm fairly happy, and we didn't really talk about I didn't really talk about mine, but I think again, like we said, captaining Salah gave me a huge boost. It was 800,000 places, and I'm 950-ish now. So it's not bad for this stage of the season. Better than I was last season at this stage. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Yep. All right. We talked for a long time about our preview because we still got one next week to go.
Yeah,
as well.
I don't know what we're going to talk about.
What are we going to talk about next week? Nothing. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, should we wrap it up there?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll be back next Wednesday, a whole week away. When I might have some more flags in my team, and you might have a flag. You might have a flag.
Yeah, I hope not.
And then we'll talk about our flags and stuff. Cool. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us. It's bye from me.
Cheers all.
Bye. See you next week. Endy Streamy.